And now we get to the Essen preview. All right. So, Essen is if you do not know, the Essen Spiel, which stands for Essen Game, is the biggest game trade show in the world by magnitudes of 10. It is enormous. A few years back, Maddie, myself, and Trey went, and we had quite an adventure there. The scale and the size of this place, it boggles the mind. I think it started, they would have like 2 huge airplane hangars full of things going on there. But this fairground has, I think, 10 hangars when it comes right down to it.
Wow.
The fair now encompasses all 10.
So what's the, like, how much bigger is it than like Gen Con?
It is the entire Gen Con dealer room,
Right.
is 1.5 of those hangars.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Like
wow.
maybe two hangars,
Wow.
hangars. And this is
So it's like 5
9 hangars. It's at least 4 times the size of Gen Con.
That's amazing.
And it's kind of interesting. So at Gen Con, you're mostly, it is not a trade show,
Right.
It's mostly a consumer show, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going there, you're playing games out here, and you're signing up for this LARP or that RPG or that game.
Yeah.
Then during your spare time, you come to the dealer hall and you walk around and you look and you buy things. And there'll be playtest areas where you playtest a game. And when you playtest a game at Gen Con, there's a person there to teach you, and they teach you the game, and you play 1 to 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And then, boop, you got to go. We got the next group coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Essen does it very differently. There is no sign up. There are no games outside of the thing. It is just, we are selling games for all these things. We are meeting with game distributors and all sorts of stuff, and putting together deals and all that sort of stuff. But huge population shows up. I mean, huge, massive crowds show up. So they do have huge areas where they have playtest sessions for these games. What the Germans do, though, is they don't stop you at any point.
Right.
So you sit down for the game, you're going to play the whole darn game. And, for Maddie and Trey and I don't know if we insulted anybody. I hope we didn't. But we would get to a point where, okay, I totally get this game. Thank you very much for showing it. And they're looking like, what is he doing? Is he getting up from the table? What are you doing? Do you need a currywurst? What is going on with you, sir? And we'd be like, no, I get it. Look, I only have a limited amount of time here.
Right.
We flew here from LA. We want to play a bunch of different games. I don't.
And I'm sure in the back of their mind they're thinking, they're Americans.
They probably, yes.
Now I know
Spitting
where
at our
they're
feet
getting
behind us. Just awful, so awful. But I will say that I'm entirely ascribing that to them, because in reality they were the kindest, nicest, gentlest, most enthusiastic people ever. There would be people that they had their playtesters, the people that work in those booths and in those areas. They are. My name is Hans, and I am cleared to teach this game in German and Dutch, right, and stuff like that. I'm here, and I have 3 English-only speakers because we're Americans and we're trash, and Hans will help us. He'll be like, well, my English is not very good, but I will try and explain the game to you. And his English is so darn good.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and he's able to do it. They're the sweetest people. Really, really awesome con. Kind of a tiring con, like even more than Gen Con. It's kind of exhausting, because each day you're just sort of like gearing for war, getting in there and battling the crowds, and trying to check out every little nook and cranny, because there's so much to see there.
Yeah. If you're a Euro game fan from the U.S. like me, it kind of feels like it's like that's the Mecca, and it's like a pilgrimage to like make it to Essen.
Totally. Yeah. That's exactly what we felt it was like. Yeah. I would say that the Gen Con and cons like that are cons that I would love to go to every year.
Yeah.
Essen's not something I want to go to every year.
Right. Yeah.
But I would say that I am now, 3 years since we last went, and now I'm starting to get the jump. Now I'm starting to be like, maybe it's time to go back.
Yeah,
maybe it's time
every 5 years or so.
Yeah, I think something like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So everything that is anything, it comes out here. Now, we're in the Kickstarter model world now, so things are a little different. Things are released in different ways and on different schedules, but still the vast majority of the great games that you're going to be seeing coming out over the next year are going to be demoing, are going to be sold, are going to be played here at Essen. And let's talk about just a couple of them. Vita Lacerda has a new game.
My favorite designer.
On Mars. Man. He is doing a space theme. Following the success of unmanned rover missions, the United Nations establishes the Department of Operations and Mars Exploration, or DOME. The first settlers arrive on Mars in 2037 and establish Mars Base Camp. And as the chief astronaut of one of these enterprises that is working there, you want to be a pioneer in the development of the biggest, most advanced colony on Mars by both achieving the DOME mission goals as well as your company's private agenda. I'm looking at pictures of it right now. Yeah, it is looking.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It looks pretty cool. It looks really funky and really interesting. Look, you know Elder and myself and Maddie well enough to know that this is probably an auto buy for us. I don't need to know anything about it. I'm pretty much just going to get it.
Right.
But I will say that if I try to be objective, it looks absolutely gorgeous and seems really, really interesting.
Yeah. I might have to just sit down and read the rules for this and just.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Don't you think?
Just in anticipation, because I know I'm going to be all over this game.
It looks crazy good. Second game that is coming out is a game called Cooper Island. And this is by Andreas Odenthal. Okay. And Odi Odenthal made La Granja, which and
I'm a fan of La Granja.
Love La Granja.
All right.
La Granja is one of those games. We haven't really talked about it a lot on the podcast, but boy, oh boy, talk about a game that uses cards in interesting ways.
We need to review La Granja, man.
We really do.
Yeah,
it's a kind of it's a breakthrough design in a lot of ways. In that there are components in the game that can be used a variety of different ways, and when you decide to use that component one way, it kind of locks in that. And those are some amazing, really tough and really interesting choices. And so we got to get that out there.
Yeah.
But I will say that Cooper Island is getting some buzz. People have been saying some really great things about it. There was a heavy cardboard playthrough of it that looks really, really interesting.
Yeah.
The idea being that we are colonists. We are arriving on this big island, and we are developing our own peninsula on that island. Lots of different ways to score, lots of really tough decisions going on all the time. And I don't know what else to say other than that. I mean, the theme isn't the most fascinating theme in the world, but the components look great.
Yeah.
And the gameplay looks dense and pretty awesome.
Yeah, it looks very meaty. Like it looks like I don't know how complicated it is, but there's a lot going on in the game.
Totally.
It looks just very interesting. Like definitely my kind of game. Looking forward to this one. And even more so now that I know it's the designer of La Granja.
Totally. Next one we have up, we're going to do two more, and then we'll get to the rest tomorrow. This is, I'm going to try and pronounce it correctly, Trismegistus, the ultimate formula. This is the year of the this is the year of the colons. Right. Trismegistus, the ultimate formula. 3 times as many words after the colon as before. It is a game by Federico Pierlorenzi and Daniele Tascini. Mm-hmm. Do you know that any one of those names?
Well, those are the Mad Italians, right?
Yes, they are. Daniele Tascini in particular, he was one of the designers of Zolkin. Yep. He was one of the designers of Voyages of Marco Polo. Mm-hmm. Just amazing work. And this is a game where you are alchemists, and you are going to draft exactly 3 dice. There's going to be a dice pool. And by choosing those dice, You're essentially gathering together alchemical ingredients and things along those lines. But you can also, in addition to taking dice, you can also use the dice that you already have to exploit them or use them again. I'm not exactly sure what the mechanism is. I will say that there is also a heavy cardboard that's been crushing it. They have a playthrough of this as well that I have yet to see.
Yeah,
but
they do a good job.
Yeah, but based on the design of this thing, it looks incredibly complex and very, very interesting. It looks like your player board is sort of a shelf of alchemical ingredients, and you're adding things into the shelf.
Yeah.
And it looks like there is a path along that shelf that is essentially going to be a chemical process where the thing on the upper left is going to pour into the thing in the beaker on the lower right, and so on and so forth. And I love when games are able to deliver on that, where you're putting together a process, right?
Yeah.
That looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
actually not as excited about this one. It seems pretty abstract. I'll wait and see, but it seems pretty abstract.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about the other one by the Mad Italians, but maybe we should. Should we talk about Terra Mara?
That seems more like up my alley. I'm definitely more excited about that one.
All right, let's just talk about that. That wasn't the fourth thing I was going to talk about today, but let's talk about it. So, Terra Mara is by Achitoka, Flamina Brasini, Virginio Gigli, Stefano Luperto, and Antonio Tinto. And if you guys know these people, they have done Coimbra. They have done so many of these amazing games that we have loved. And Terra Mara is the name of villages that were founded around 1500 BC, mid to late Bronze Age in northern Italy. And basically, we're going to be the chief of a clan of one of these villages up here. And our goal is to develop the clan, explore the land farther away, trade with other villagers, and reach sacred places. Elder, you took a look at this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like there's, from this group of designers, some interesting combination of mechanics. There's this pathway where you have these carts, and depending on where that is, that allows you to it's worker placement, place your workers on certain spaces. There's this mechanic where you flip the tiles over, and it has different actions on the other side. There's also another track at the beginning. So it just seems like a lot of cool stuff to manage. And then there's also this mechanic where you start off as a child in the game. And then at some point you make the decision, you get to grow up and you flip the card over, and then you have different player powers.
There's a bar mitzvah action?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
That's really, really great.
Seems pretty interesting.
Listen, these if anybody has been hitting it out of the park each and every time, it's this Italian cabal of amazing designers. I have to try out each one of these things. Now, you'll notice that I did not put release dates or anything like that on these games. That's the problem with Essen, is that you don't know. Some of these games will be released day and date, pretty much. Yeah. Some of these games you may not see for several months. You may not even see for a year, sometimes even more. Yeah. You're never sure. These games that we're highlighting, I believe, will be released in the United States fairly shortly thereafter. Look, all these designers have been racing, burning every bridge, doing everything they could do to make sure these games were ready for Essen, because that is where their business is. After that, their second goal is, can we get these things released in these markets before Christmas? And because Essen this year is at the end of October, that only leaves them really 1 month to ramp up their production and get it out to absolutely everybody. Yeah. It's tough. Some of these people are going to be able to do it. Some of these people won't. Some of us may have to wait until 2020 with FOMO, except for those few people that have somebody that they love that went to Essen and bought them something, which I don't currently have, which is very sad. I used to be that guy. That's it for game news. We'll stop right there. That's a lot of game news we got. Let us move on to games on the brain.
Terraforming Mars, Forbidden Stars, Heaven and Ale, Great Western Trail, Too Many Bones, Game of Thrones, Oregon, Avalon, Crokinole, Blood Bowl, Time Stories, Scattergories, Rolling Flames, Codenames, Rising Sun, Cash and Guns, Scripts and Scribes, Five Tribes, Web of Power, Keyflower, Mage Knife, Arkwright, Escape Plan, Wingspan, Games on the Brain.
Elder, what's going on in your brain right now? What is the game that you find yourself thinking about when you are doing other things?
Well, we actually just talked about a couple of them, the Mars and the Terra Mara. But some other ones from my Gen Con short list that I never got a chance to play was Sierra West. I don't know if you played that one.
No, I never played Sierra West.
Yeah. So,
can you tell me something about it?
Well,
I don't know a lot about it.
There was, it looks like there were some similar mechanics to Lagrange in a way where you have, you're taking from this interesting tableau of cards, the way the cards are set up in some type of like pyramid fashion. So some of them, get released depending on when other ones are taken. And then I think you put the cards around your board in a certain way and get certain, actions depending on where you move your worker around to.
Great.
So it looked like some, I didn't get a chance to play it. I saw it on the table at Strategicon. Didn't get a chance to play it, but definitely seemed like something, I would like to try out. So
interesting.
That's still on my brain.
Cool.
And there's this other game, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Manchukuo, I think, is this, yeah, it's Manchukuo, and it seems like it has this interesting...
Manchukuo?
Yeah, something like that.
Interesting.
But it has this mechanic...
Chinese?
Yeah.
I think Manchu will be,
yeah.
It's a dynasty.
Yeah, so I think there's this... it's basically you have a school, right? Okay. And you are basically training your students, and you're trying to keep out of the view of the government, right? So you're kind of training these students.
What are you training them to do?
I don't know. I don't know if it's martial arts, I guess.
Maybe a ninja, that sort of thing. I mean, it's China, so not ninja, but
right. Yeah, I think it's like martial arts.
Interesting.
But it seems like there's some really cool mechanics where you're trying to hide the students out, and depending on what you do in the game, you can only bring certain other students in because you need a certain amount of resources. It just looked like really kind of interesting. So definitely want to check that one out.
Totally. For me, on my brain right now is Nemo's War. Matt told us that he was going to get this game, Nemo's War, which was a one-player only game that was going to be what he would do during his long winter,
yes,
as we're going to call it. And when I went over to see him on Tuesday and basically steal the games from him.
Yeah.
Like our collections are virtually identical, but there are some things that I have that he doesn't have, and there are some things that he has that I don't have. And since he's not going to be using them, I took them all.
Yeah.
I just really am like, dude, I'm really sorry, but I'm just going to take all these games. He showed me Nemo's War, which was out on his table, and I gotta say, it looks really cool. You are Nemo. You're playing against, basically, over the course of the game, more and more ships are popping up in all the different seas on the board, and they are antagonistic to you. So you have to deal with them somehow. You have to, destroy them to some degree. But the more you do, your notoriety will rise. And when your notoriety rises, the governments of the world are going to come after you, and your notoriety gets high enough, and it unlocks these really bad warships that are going to come after you and try and get you. But you as Nemo, you can play with several different agendas. I think there's 6 different agendas that you can play. And by playing with those agendas, basically it's an overlay that goes on the scoring board that tells you what scores points for you. And it's like, so if your goal is pacifism or something along those lines, you get a 0x next to the sunk tonnage or 1x next to sunk tonnage, because you don't get a lot of points for sinking other ships, right? But exploration, you get X3 times 3, so 3 times the points from that category. There's so many different ways to score points. The artwork is gorgeous. It's a really beautiful game, and I'm like, gosh, if I ever don't have friends like Matt, that would be a really great game to play. I have no idea when I would do that, but man, it's so good that I think we're probably going to have to do a one-person review of that. Maybe we'll have Maddie come back, and that'll be his little when his head pops in, we'll do a little Nemo's War review.
Yeah.
But it looks pretty amazing. And then the other thing on my mind is King's Dilemma. I mean, you heard me talk about it for quite some time. I'm very intrigued by the concept of taking that app called Reigns and turning that into a board game. I think that it could be really, really cool.